Chapter 69. In order to avoid suspicion at the pinnacle of his life, So Young-sun chose to hand over his military authority and retreat bravely. He lived alone in the Su residence and refused to meet any guests. He severed all ties with the military commanders and the important officials of the royal court. In order to uphold the loyalty of Emperor Taizong, So Young-sun even gave up on his martial arts cultivation. From then on, no one could hear the sound of war or any ripples of origin energy in the Su residence. He allowed himself to grow old like an ordinary person. The gates of the Su residence were tightly shut all year round, as though a wall had formed, isolating the outside world and So Young-sun himself. So Young-sun's tragedy had only just begun. If one were to say that So Young-sun could still endure the criticism of the officials when he was at the pinnacle of his life, then losing his son in his middle age was a heavy blow to him. So Young-sun might have retreated from the royal court, but he didn't forbid his son from working for the royal court. This was what he regretted the most. And when So Young-sun's only grandson died as well, So Young-sun suffered a fatal blow. From then on, his life was filled with endless sorrow and pain. From then on, the old servant had never seen So Young-sun smile again. When the old servant spoke of this matter, he couldn't help but wipe away his tears. A great war god who had contributed greatly to the expansion of the Central Plains should not meet such a fate. So Young-sun had never been happy in his life. And this absent-minded child who was licking the candied haws was the only happiness he had in the latter half of his life. Even though this happiness only lasted for a few short years. Life was short. Regardless of whether he could obtain So Young-sun's legacy or not, Wang Chong hoped that this war god would be able to be happy. Perhaps, bringing this happiness forward by a few years through his own hands was the best way to show respect to him. Remember, you aren't allowed to tell this matter to old mister. Wang Chong patted the child's head and tossed him a silver ingot from his sleeve. Then he placed a new black chess piece on the gold-plated chessboard. So Young-sun only had one chance. If he made one mistake, he would lose the whole game. As long as the chess piece was placed in the wrong place, it would never be faded again in the future. Wang Chong had already lost a stone, but he was not eliminated. Instead, he gave himself a second black stone. Wang Chong knew that he had successfully attracted the attention of the old marshal. Leaving behind the black piece, Wang Chong turned around and left the Ghost Tree district once more. So Young-sun's art of god and demon obliteration was known as the most difficult supreme art to obtain. Back then, so many old marshals, including the late emperor, were all mercilessly rejected, let alone himself. Wang Chong did not think that he could obtain the legacy of this war god just by playing a few games of chess. However, as long as he could attract his attention and make some progress, that would be enough. While Wang Chong was leaving the Ghost Tree district, in the Yao residence, Yao Feng wasn't idling around either. Wang Yan Wang Bei Wang Chong. One day, I'll make your Wang clan vanish to the ground to pay for the humiliation you have inflicted on our Yao clan. Yao Feng clenched his fists tightly and swept the items on the table onto the floor. The atmosphere in the Yao residence was heavy, extremely heavy. Ever since his father, Yao Guangyi, suffered a setback by the borders and lost to Wang Ji, the atmosphere in the Yao residence had been extremely heavy. The old master of the Four Quarters Embassy had ordered that no one from the Yao clan was to cause trouble outside. The old master of the Four Quarters Embassy had ordered that no one from the Yao clan was to cause trouble outside. Ever since that day, the gates of the Yao clan had been tightly shut. Even Yao Feng's movements were restricted, and he was forbidden from leaving. This was the first time in his life that something like this had happened. To the prideful Yao Feng, this was a heavy blow. Yao Feng knew the reason behind this. It was because the old master didn't wish to attract the attention of that clan after coming to a truce with the Wang clan. Right now, Yao Feng didn't need to leave to know that he had become a laughingstock among the other signs. Yao Feng had always been proud of his demeanor, and this matter was a huge humiliation. No matter what, our Yao clan can't take this lying down. Yao Feng thought hatefully. In the vast crane pavilion, Yao Feng had suffered a huge loss in the hands of the Wang clan siblings. However, Yao Feng didn't make a move, nor did he try to exact revenge. This wasn't because Yao Feng was magnanimous. Rather, Yao Feng was instructed by his father not to cause unnecessary trouble. The scheme of his father and King Qi wasn't a secret to Yao Feng. As long as his father succeeded, the entire Wang clan would vanish in an instant. This was also the reason why Yao Feng had been tolerating the matter. For the sake of the bigger picture, he would try his best not to make a move. However, Yao Feng didn't expect that after waiting for so long, instead of receiving news of his father's victory at the border and the discord between the Wang clan and the King of Song, he received news of his father making a fool of himself at the border and becoming a laughingstock in the capital. Even his grandfather, whom he had always respected since young, had to lower his head to the Wang clan old master in order to appease the repercussions of this matter. When he received the news, Yao Feng's heart was bleeding. The Yao clan was like the sun in the sky, and they had the protection of King Qi. When had they ever experienced such humiliation? However, this wasn't the end. Soon, his father passed down the order for the Yao clan to close their doors to avoid the storm. After enduring for 10 days, Yao Feng couldn't take it any longer. No. I have to speak to my father. Our Yao clan can't tolerate such humiliation. Yao Feng left the study and headed straight for his father, Yao Guangyi's study. In order to deal with the Wang clan, Yao Feng felt that he had to have a good talk with his father. Lord, I've just received news that the Wang clan's Wang Chong has appeared at the Blue Bottle Pavilion. Just as he arrived at his father's study, Yao Feng heard a familiar voice from afar. It's Guard Zhou. Yao Feng stopped in his tracks. Guard Zhou was his father's trusted aide and he was in charge of gathering all news in the capital. Yao Feng didn't expect to hear news of the youngest son of the Wang clan, Wang Chong, from his mouth. Yao Feng stopped in his tracks and was about to listen carefully when he heard a long sigh. There's no need to speak. Father has ordered that our Yao clan shouldn't offend the Wang clan for the time being. In the future, don't report any news regarding the Wang clan to me. His father's heavy voice sounded from the door, and it was filled with deep fatigue. Guard Zhou fell silent for a moment before keeping his mouth shut. Yao Feng stood at the door, and his face suddenly turned pale. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, Yao Feng wouldn't have believed that this was the confident, steady, and intelligent father in his mind. Yao Feng knew the reason. His father had lost the war by the borders. His father had always looked down on Wang Chong's father. However, this time, his father had suffered a crushing defeat. Furthermore, it was in the scheme that he was most proficient in. His father didn't reveal the slightest hint of this matter to keep it a secret. It was impossible for the Wang clan to obtain news from him. However, this was precisely the reason why his father suffered such a huge blow. If he couldn't find out who was helping the Wang clan from the shadows, if he couldn't understand how he lost, it would be hard for his father to stand up again. Wang Yan, I can't deal with you. I can't deal with your 2 sons either. However, I can deal with your younger one. Recalling how he was beaten up by Wang Chong in the vast crane pavilion, Yao Feng's face turned red and his hatred for the Wang clan intensified. Grandfather told them to restrain themselves and his father ordered him not to offend the Wang clan for the time being. Yao Feng knew that it wasn't a wise move to deal with Wang Chong now. However, to Yao Feng, there was no need for him to deal with the Wang clan personally. Thinking so, Yao Feng sneered coldly. He turned around and left the Yao clan secretly. He knew of a place where there was a formidable assassin who could help him accomplish all of this without anyone noticing. That afternoon, Zhao Fengshan's 35,000 gold taels was sent to Wang Chong. When it was sent over, Wang Chong's uncle, Li Lin, was delighted. He praised Wang Chong several times. He had complete trust in Wang Chong. Wang Chong didn't take all of the 35,000 gold taels with him. Instead, he left half of it for his uncle. He asked his uncle to keep it for him. Other than that, Wang Chong had some ideas. He wanted his uncle to help him deal with this matter. This way, he would be spared from a lot of trouble. Naturally, Uncle Li Lin nodded his head in agreement. Through this matter, the relationship between uncle and nephew grew closer. Chong, you have so much money now. To the Wang clan, this is an unimaginably huge sum of money. Have you thought about how you are going to spend it in the future? Furthermore, it's inconvenient for you to stay in the Wang clan. You might accidentally bring trouble upon yourself. Have you thought about finding a place to live in? While they were chatting in the carriage, Uncle Li Lin suddenly mentioned this matter. He wasn't blind. There were many things that Wang Chong was hiding from him. However, these matters were a blessing to the Wang clan. Moreover, Li Lin could also sense that although his nephew was young, his ambition was not small. The things he was doing were getting bigger and bigger. Based on his experience, Li Lin felt that there were many problems within. Wang Chong didn't notice these problems himself, but Li Lin could. For example, Duke Jiu's lineage had always been incorruptible. Would Wang Chong suddenly obtain such a huge sum of money raise unnecessary suspicions? Even though Wang Chong's wealth came from a legitimate source, it might cause unnecessary trouble for the Wang clan. These were all things that needed to be considered. Uncle, I'll leave this matter to you. Wang Chong said that he was also thinking about this matter. There were many things that were becoming more and more inconvenient for him to do at home. Furthermore, just like what Uncle Li Lin said, there were some things that would be fine if he handled them well, but if he didn't, it might bring trouble to the clan. Putting everything else aside, 30,000 gold taels was something that might attract the covetous eyes of others. This was also the reason why he gave half of the gold taels to Uncle Li Lin. Also, don't tell my mother about this matter yet. Wang Chong said. Don't worry. Li Lin smiled and said with a doting expression. The more he looked at this nephew of his, the more he liked him. If not for Wang Chong, he would have continued to hold that position for many years. Thus, out of gratitude and as a kinsman, no matter what Wang Chong did, Li Lin approved of it. Furthermore, if the clan were to learn of what Wang Chong had done, he might be restricted or supervised. As a mother, it was inevitable that she would worry about him. This way, Wang Chong wouldn't be able to do as he pleased. Thus, Li Lin was in favor of Wang Chong keeping this matter a secret for now. You can talk to your mother about this later. It'll be the same. Also, Lord Zhao asked me to pass this invitation to you. He said that if you are free, he would like to invite you to the Imperial Army. Chapter 70. Uncle Li Lin handed the invitation to Wang Chong and left. Wang Chong pondered for a moment, then he brought along 17,000 gold taels and headed straight for the Duke of Wei's mansion. Unlike the Wang Chong clan, the Duke of Wei had a wide range of businesses. He helped Ablonidon and Arloja gather a large amount of rations to transport to Sindhu in the west. Such a large project involved many aspects, and it wasn't something that Wang Chong could accomplish alone. In this aspect, Wei Hao was much better than him. Although Wei Hao wasn't powerful enough to make all the decisions in the Wei family's affairs, Wei Hao didn't care. However, as long as it didn't involve Wei Kingdom's main business and it was just some insignificant matters, such as selling swords at the Blue Bottle Pavilion, Wei Hao, as the young master of the Wei clan, was still able to make the decision. There was no need for the Duke of Wei's permission. Wang Chong didn't need the Wei family to do anything. He just needed to use their network of business channels throughout the country to purchase some food. Going all the way to the west, after a while, he saw a huge mansion. It was splendid and magnificent. On the signboard above the door, there was a black and gold word, Wei, which clearly indicated the identity of this family. This was the Duke of Wei's mansion. Even though Wang Chong and Wei Hao were childhood friends, they grew up together. However, Wang Chong rarely came to the Duke of Wei's mansion. The reason was simple. Wang Chong's father, Wang Yan, and Wei Hao's father, Wei Yuan, did not get along. When Wang Chong and Wei Hao were young, the two families had a good relationship. However, after Wei Hao's father was conferred the title of Duke of Wei, everything changed. The Duke of Wei and his father were both very stubborn, and they often clashed with Wang Chong's big uncle, Wang Zhen, in the royal court. As a result, the relationship between the two clans grew increasingly strained. On the other hand, the relationship between Wang Chong and Wei Hao was not affected. Adults play with adults, and children play with children. It was just that he couldn't go to the Duke of Wei's mansion. Duke of Wei's personality was different from his father's. Although his father didn't have a good relationship with Duke of Wei, Wei Hao was always welcomed to the Wang family. Wang Chong's mother would also smile and affectionately call him Xianxia and prepare a plate of pastries for him. In the Wang clan, The matters of the adults would never involve the children. However, the Duke of Wei was different. He loved the house and its crow, and hated the house and its crow. He didn't like Wang Chong's father, Wang Yan, so he didn't like Wang Chong as well. That was also the reason why Wei Hao was placed under house arrest when Wang Chong caused a huge uproar. The Duke of Wei had even sent word that Wang Chong was strictly forbidden from stepping foot into the Wei family. However, this posed no threat to Wang Chong at all. Wang Chong found a gate guard that Wei Hao had bribed and passed the message in. Soon Wei Hao came out. "Wang Chong, why are you here?" Wei Hao hurriedly ran out. As he walked, his eyes were filled with surprise. In the past, Wang Chong would always go to the Eight Gods Pavilion to look for him, and he rarely came to his house. After so long, this was the first time Wang Chong came to the Duke of Wei's mansion. "Stop wasting time and get on the carriage. I have something to talk to you about." Wang Chong beckoned him over and chided jokingly. "Hee, you came at the right time. I have something to talk to you about as well." Wei Hao said. "Oh." Wang Chong was surprised. The two childhood friends who had grown up together boarded the carriage, closed the door, and the carriage moved forward. "Wang Chong, you asked me to look for a fellow named Zhang Munian. Tell me, why are you looking for him?" Upon entering the carriage, before Wang Chong could say anything, Wei Hao had already spoken up with a grim expression. "You found him?" Wang Chong's body jolted, and his face warped. When Wang Chong was looking for Wei Hao, he had been smiling all along. However, at this moment he retracted his smile and a grim expression appeared on his face. Zhang Munian was an important part of his plan. To him, he was even more important than the Hyderabad ores and the art of god and demon obliteration. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that even though Wang Chong didn't put much effort into Zhang Munian, he was the one whom Wang Chong was most concerned about. I found him." Wei Hao nodded his head. He had grown up together with Wang Chong, so he couldn't be any more familiar with the latter. He immediately sensed the change in Wang Chong's body, and his entire person turned solemn. But even if he were to die, he couldn't understand why Wang Chong would place so much importance on an insignificant figure like Zhang Munian. "But let me tell you this first. I didn't find him in the list of officials but in the death prison." Wei Hao said grimly. "Death prison?" Wang Chong was taken aback. "If that wasn't the case, I wouldn't have spent so much time looking for him. If I wasn't meticulous enough to flip through his name book, I might not have noticed him at all. This is the dossier I had someone make on him. Take a look." Wei Hao carefully took out a dossier from his bosom and tossed it over. The dossier was wrapped tightly in a yellow leather pouch. Clearly, Wang Chong had put in a lot of effort into it. Initially, Wei Hao didn't care much about such things. What he was interested in was martial arts. But as long as this matter was entrusted to him by Wang Chong, he would definitely do his best to carry it out. "Wang Chong, it's not that I want to criticize you, but this person's situation is extremely unique. An insignificant official like him actually embezzled more than 20,000 gold taels. Isn't this a joke? Aren't you being too brazen? I believe you should know how the royal court deals with such corrupt officials. This person has been marked by the Bureau of Punishments, and he will be executed soon. Once his name is on the list, even if my father is the current Duke of the Royal Court, he won't be able to get out. Even though I don't know why you're looking for him, Wang Chong, listen to my words of advice. Don't pursue this matter any further. A person won't be sent to the death prison for no reason. There must be a reason behind the royal court's betrayal. Getting too close to such a person isn't a good thing for you or the Wang clan." Wei Hao didn't expect that the person Wang Chong was looking for would be a death convict. He wasn't worried about him, but the Wang clan had always been incorruptible, and Duke Jiao was highly respected. Wei Hao was worried that if Wang Chong were to get involved in this matter, it would become an excuse for others to attack the Wang clan. Having grown up in such a noble clan, Wei Hao had seen too many political struggles. Thus, he understood a thing or two. A tall tree attracts the wind. It wasn't a good thing for Wang Chong to get involved with a death convict. Wang Chong didn't say a word. With a grim expression, he flipped open Zhang Munian's dossier and began reading through it. The Tang dynasty was a flourishing empire, and they were extremely careful with the approval of death convicts. All information had to be checked thoroughly before they dared to sign their names. As such, the information on Zhang Munian was extremely detailed. To think that he's already 54. Wang Chong looked through the information on the dossier. Zhang Munian was much older than he thought, and he was already nearing his twilight years. The dossier was extremely detailed on his embezzlement. The evidence of embezzlement of more than 20,000 gold taels was clear. Considering that he was a lowly official, the fact that he was able to take advantage of a loophole to embezzle so much was truly shocking. This was also the reason why the Bureau of Punishments signed his name and sentenced him to death. However, there were some suspicious points in the dossier. 20,000 gold taels wasn't a small sum. To an ordinary clan, it was a sum that more than a dozen households could spend in their entire lifetime. Yet, despite Zhang Munian's embezzlement, there wasn't a single shred of gold on him. His attire was still extremely simple, and his food and drink were the same as his colleagues. Other than that, when the Bureau of Punishments searched through his residence, they found that he lived in an old muddy house. Other than a rice vat, 2 wardrobes, and a bed, there was nothing else in the house. The officials dispatched by the Bureau of Punishments were unable to find the 20,000 gold taels even after digging 3 feet into the ground. No one knew where he had secretly buried it. Even though the Bureau of Punishments had their doubts, in order to make an example out of Zhang Munian, as well as the fact that Zhang Munian had confessed to the crime, the Bureau of Punishments decided to sentence him to death. At this point, Wang Chong finally understood the situation. Wang Chong's feelings toward Zhang Munian didn't change in the slightest. On the contrary, his desire to save him intensified. However, Wei Hao wasn't wrong. Zhang Munian's condition was already set in stone, and his death was certain. Regardless of whether it was the Wei clan or their Wang clan, neither of them had the capability to rescue someone from the death prison of the Bureau of Punishments. However, Wang Chong knew that there was still a sliver of hope for this matter. Looks like I can only look for the King of Song. A person suddenly appeared in Wang Chong's mind. The King of Song was a member of the royal family, and his words carried great weight in the royal court. This was something that Wang Chong's father Wang Yan, big uncle Wang Zhen, and Wei Hao's father Wei Yuan couldn't compare to. More importantly, Wang Chong happened to know that the King of Song had a certain level of jurisdiction over the Bureau of Punishments. If he were to step in this matter, the outcome would be completely different. Wei Hao, you don't have to bother about this matter. I'll deal with it myself. Wang Chong kept Zhang Munian's scroll in his embrace. Wei Hao nodded his head. Thinking that Wang Chong had given up on the matter, his mood lightened up. Right, what matter do you have for me? Hearing Wei Hao's question, Wang Chong couldn't help but chuckle. Youngster Wei, it's not that I want to nag at you, but you got beaten up again, right? Is that cousin of yours here again? Wang Chong chuckled as he stared at the red scar at the corner of Wei Hao's eyes. This scar was still fresh, and he had noticed it the moment Wei Hao boarded the carriage. Even though Wei Hao had tried his best to conceal it with a strand of his hair, how could he hide it from Wang Chong's sharp eyes? Wei Hao's act was exposed by Wang Chong, and he collapsed in an instant. What nonsense are you talking about? I accidentally knocked against the door frame when I was leaving the house. Wei Hao tried his best to conceal the matter. In the end, it only made Wang Chong laugh even louder. Here, this is for you. Take it back and study it carefully. Cultivate it well. Wang Chong took out a book from nowhere and tossed it over to Wei Hao. What's this? Wei Hao caught it with both hands as he asked curiously. After flipping through 2 pages, his face warped in agitation. Martial arts technique. Why do you have this? Chapter 71. Wei Hao was a martial arts fanatic. However, his mediocre aptitude meant that he had no fate with most martial arts. This was something that even the Duke of Wei could not change. Therefore, Wei Hao's desire for power was unimaginable. Wei Hao did not expect Wang Chong to give him a martial arts manual. In this era of martial arts, other than those martial arts that were publicized, any martial arts manual was priceless. No faction would give it away easily. Wei Hao was pleasantly surprised. Wei Hao flipped through the manual page by page. At first, he was just casually flipping through it. However, he gradually became engrossed in it and was completely captivated. Although he had not cultivated it yet, Wei Hao could feel that the martial arts Wang Chong gave him were much more powerful than what he was currently cultivating. Seeing Wei Hao slowly become engrossed in it, even his breathing became faintly discernible. Wang Chong nodded and smiled in his heart. Wang Chong had always been filled with guilt towards Wei Hao. Wei Hao had always treated him as his best brother. However, due to various reasons, they had a misunderstanding and parted ways, losing this friend. Even so, Wei Hao never gave up on him. In his previous life, Wei Hao ignored his family's opposition and helped him and his family during his most difficult time. At that time, Wang Chong could not help Wei Hao at all. They could only watch helplessly as Wei Hao was washed away by the torrent of the era and the catastrophe, just like the others. In this life, Wang Chong had always wanted to do something for him. Martial arts had always been Wei Hao's weakness. However, his mediocre aptitude limited him. Even the Duke of Wei could not change it. Therefore, even at his final moments, Wei Hao was never strong. Wang Chong had always wanted to help him, but it was not easy to find a suitable martial art manual for him. According to Wei Hao's situation, Wang Chong spent a long time recalling all the martial arts manuals in his mind. Finally, he found one that was suitable for Wei Hao. This was also the reason why Wang Chong only gave it to him after being reborn for so long. Time passed slowly. Wei Hao was engrossed in reading. Wang Chong didn't disturb him and just sat quietly in the carriage. Whew! After an unknown amount of time, Wei Hao let out a long sigh and finally lifted his head from the scroll. Mountain Ascension Incantation? What a strange name. Why haven't I heard of it before? Wang Chong, where did you learn such powerful martial arts? Wei Hao looked at Wang Chong in astonishment. It was as if he did not know him at all. Wei Hao didn't know why, but when he flipped open the manual, he felt especially fond of it. It was as if there was a strange force pulling him in, causing him to keep reading. Wei Hao only let out a long sigh of relief when he was done. Wei Hao didn't know where Wang Chong got his martial arts from, but it was obvious that this wasn't the style of the Wang family. It was completely unorthodox. But for some reason, Wei Hao liked it very much. When he flipped through it, he had a feeling that it was tailor-made for him, which made him feel very excited. What, you don't like it? Give it back. Wang Chong stretched out his hand with a straight face. Scram! What you gave to me is mine. Brat, don't even think of taking it back. Wei Hao hugged the Mountain Ascension Incantation tightly in his embrace, as though Wang Chong was trying to dig out his heart. Haha. Wang Chong retracted his right hand and laughed heartily. Seeing Wang Chong laughing, Wei Hao couldn't help but laugh as well. The two brothers seemed to have returned to the harmonious relationship they had when they were young. The misunderstanding caused by Ma Zhou had completely disappeared. Brat, take this Mountain Ascension Incantation as a token of my hard work over the past few days. Don't even mention it in the future. Right? If there's such a good thing in the future, remember to call me along. Dream on. Wang Chong scolded jokingly. He wasn't surprised that Wei Hao would like this manual. That was because this manual was created for someone with mediocre talent like Wei Hao. It was common knowledge that the majority of people in the world weren't geniuses with outstanding talent, but ordinary people. Although most of these people were destined to not have any accomplishments, nothing was absolute. There was always a chance of survival. The Mountain Ascension Incantation belonged to such a chance. This manual didn't have any requirements on talent, but it required 10 times, 100 times the effort. Clumsy birds fly early. If one's talent couldn't compare to others, then put in more effort. This was the concept of the Mountain Ascension Incantation. This cultivation technique basically had no bottlenecks. From the origin energy realm to the true martial realm, then to the profound martial realm, then the imperial martial realm, this cultivation technique could be cultivated endlessly. The only thing one had to put in was more effort, 100 times or even 1,000 times. The further one progressed, the more effort one had to put in. For this cultivation technique, hard work was its bottleneck. However, even so, Wang Chong didn't have much of an impression of this cultivation technique. In fact, he almost couldn't remember it at all. The reason was simple. Although this cultivation technique was mystical, it wasn't suitable for Wang Chong. Everyone had their own cultivation technique. This cultivation technique might be powerful for Wei Hao, but it might not necessarily be the same for Wang Chong. In fact, it might even be inferior to ordinary cultivation techniques. Furthermore, this cultivation technique wasn't fully implemented in his previous life. The reason was simple: there was no time. This cultivation technique required too much time. Furthermore, the number of people who could put in so much effort was probably even fewer than those talented geniuses. Keep this matter to yourself. Don't tell anyone else, including your father. Wang Chong said. Don't worry. I know. When I'm strong enough, I'll teach that Wei Zhe a lesson. Wei Hao said ruthlessly. Hearing Wei Hao mention his cousin again, Wang Chong only smiled. However, he had other thoughts in his mind and didn't expose him. Everyone was fated to have a demon star that restrained them. Wei Hao's demon star was his cousin, Li. Compared to the younger generation of the Wei clan, Wei Zhe was undoubtedly a genius. Although he was younger than Wei Hao, his cultivation was higher than Wei Hao's. Perhaps he was angry that his father's official rank was lower than Wei Hao's, or perhaps he wanted to vent his father's anger through Wei Hao. Every time he came to the Wei clan, Wei Zhe especially liked to cause trouble for Wei Hao and think of ways to teach him a lesson. This made Wei Hao's father, the Duke of Wei, especially angry. In addition, Wei Hao's aptitude was mediocre and he didn't inherit the Duke of Wei's merits. Therefore, Wei Hao's situation at home wasn't as easy as it seemed. This was also the reason why Wang Chong gave Wei Hao the mountain ascension incantation. Let's not talk about this. There's something I need to trouble you with. Wang Chong stretched out his right hand and went straight to the point. He opened the lid of the wooden chest in the carriage. More than 17,000 gold taels immediately came into view. Here are 17,000 gold taels. Take it all and help me gather all kinds of food. Cows, sheep, pigs, bananas, water grains, millet, sorghum. As long as it's edible, it'll do. You've sold it? Wei Hao widened his eyes. He had given the 37,000 gold taels previously to the two Cindy monks. For another 10,000 gold taels to appear here, it was clear that he had sold the sword. Of the 35,000 gold taels, this is only half of it. Wang Chong nodded. He didn't hide anything from Wei Hao. Don't worry. It's fine as long as there's gold. Leave this matter to me, Wei Hao said. He wasn't the one who had the final say in the Wei clan. However, as long as there was money, it was purely a business transaction. As long as it could earn money, the Wei clan wouldn't reject it. Also, help me with something. Wang Chong whispered his thoughts to Wei Hao. Wei Hao hurriedly nodded his head. No problem, leave this matter to me. After everything was settled, there wasn't much else to be said. Wang Chong jumped down from the carriage and left it for Wei Hao to transport the gold. Then he rushed back home. His little sister was currently indulging in pleasure. After receiving a huge sum of several hundred gold taels from Wang Chong, she had become a millionaire. Every day, she would follow behind cousin Wang Zhuyen and have a good time. Sometimes she wouldn't even return home. The Wang clan was strict and such a situation was forbidden. However, if it was cousin Wang Zhuyen, as long as she sent a note over, his mother wouldn't pursue the matter. After settling the matters in Sindhu, Wang Chong spent the next few days in peace. He would wake up in the middle of the night to practice his dragon bone art and Herculean fist. Then he would head to the Ghost Tree District during the day and place down a black stone to play chess with the war god So Yongsun. The days were peaceful and orderly. Come, everyone, let's toast to young Master Su. I, Zhang Wei, will never bow down to anyone except for young Master Su. Young Master Su has always been the person I respect the most. Zhang Wei, I'm different from you. Young Master Su, let me toast to you. You have always been the person I respect the most. In the capital of the Tang dynasty, who doesn't know of young Master Su? Indeed. Given Duke of Su's influence, there is no one in the capital who wouldn't give him some face. Even the Yao clan and Wang clan have to be wary of him. In the Eight Gods Pavilion, a large group of people surrounded Su Bai, fawning on him and fawning on him. Su Bai reclined in his armchair, narrowing his eyes as he raised his wineglass, accepting the compliments from the crowd without any trace of politeness. In the capital of the Tang dynasty, these scions were undoubtedly the most influential scions in the capital. But honestly speaking, Su Bai didn't think much of them. Su Bai knew that they were fawning on him, but there was one thing that they were right about. His father, Duke of Su Fuwei, was definitely one of the most influential figures in the capital of the Tang dynasty. Even the Yao clan and Wang clan couldn't disregard his father's existence. "All right, young Master Su, why did you suddenly decide to treat everyone today and call everyone over?" A scion put down his wine cup and asked curiously. Even though Su Bai Gongzi wasn't a petty person, he wasn't a generous person either. In the Eight Gods Pavilion, it was rare for them to meet him for a meal even once every 3 months. They weren't related to each other, and they weren't close to each other. It was rare for them to meet even once every 3 years. Chapter 72. Hearing those words, Su Bai harumphed, and his expression suddenly turned cold. In an instant, the atmosphere changed. No one could have imagined that Su Bai's expression would change just like the weather in April. Everyone's heart turned cold, and they immediately shut their mouth. Duke of Su was like the sun in the sky. Even though they came from wealthy backgrounds, how could they compare to Su Bai? Now that Su Bai was displeased, no one dared to speak. To think that all of you would have forgotten about it. Looks like I have to remind all of you. Have you forgotten that we still have 1,000 gold taels with Wang Chong? How can you all forget about such an important matter? Su Bai's face was cold. Everyone immediately came to a realization. They finally understood why Su Bai would treat them at the Eight Gods Pavilion for the first time. Those who weren't close to Su Bai immediately regretted their actions. They shouldn't have come to the Eight Gods Pavilion for Su Bai's sake. Clearly, Su Bai wanted to make use of them to deal with the Wang clan. This was a political battle between the Wang clan, Su clan, and Yao clan. Su Bai didn't care about it. He could play in it, but they couldn't afford to. If they were to get embroiled in a battle between the top clans of the empire, they would be reduced to ashes. They probably wouldn't even know what was going on when a calamity suddenly befell their clan. "Young Master Su, my stomach is a little, let me say this first, it's only right for one to repay one's debt. Back then, we borrowed it together at the Eight Gods Pavilion, and today, we shall return it together. If anyone dares to refuse, it means that they aren't giving me face. In the future, if any elder, relative, or father were to be demoted, don't say that I didn't warn you." Before those scions could find an excuse to leave, Su Bai had already taken the initiative to beat them into a retreat. His cold gaze swept across the crowd impolitely, and a threatening aura emanated from it. Upon hearing those words, the scions who were about to retreat felt their hearts tremble and they immediately stopped in their tracks. Given Duke of Su's capability, it was entirely possible for him to do such a thing. "Young Master Su, there's a matter regarding Wang Chong that I wonder if you know of. There's a swordsmith in the Blue Bottle Pavilion who sells swords for 40,000 gold taels. I heard that his name is Wang Chong." In the crowd, a noble child suddenly said hesitantly, 40,000 taels? Su Bai was taken aback. "Yes, young Master Su, do you think, have you lost your minds? It was just someone with the same name. Do you think that the swordsmith is Wang Chong? How is that possible?" Su Bai sneered. Even if he was beaten to death, he would not believe that Wang Chong had this kind of ability. What kind of joke was this? If Wang Chong had this kind of ability, how could he be toyed with by a small hooligan like Ma Zhou? If Wang Chong had such a thing, he would still need to borrow money from them for 40,000 taels of silver. How could these guys have such a ridiculous idea? Hearing Su Bai's words, the crowd also felt that it was ridiculous. Indeed, if Wang Chong was so rich, why would he borrow money from them? Nowadays, who wasn't begging their families for money? Not to mention earning 40,000 taels of gold, there weren't many people who could earn 100 taels of gold. If Wang Chong had such ability, he was truly a god. Right, I suddenly recalled something. I heard that Wang Chong of the Blue Bottle Pavilion looks to be 17 or 18, much older than Wang Chong. Young Master Su is right, the two of them must have the same name. Another tall and skinny noble suddenly recalled a detail and said, Right, I remember it too. That swordsmith is indeed 17 or 18, much older than Wang Chong. Right, that's what I heard from my family as well. Me too. Upon his reminder, the others also recalled the matter and they began to speak up. At this moment, everyone relaxed. Even the noble scion who brought up the matter previously felt embarrassed. The difference in age was too great, it was clear that they weren't the same person. He was too preoccupied with the name that he forgot about this point. Hearing the words of the crowd, Su Bai harumphed. Initially, he was still feeling uneasy, but after hearing those words, he immediately calmed down. Later on, everyone will bring a debt receipt. All of us will head to the Wang clan together to claim back the money that Wang Chong owes us. It is only right for one to repay a debt. If anything happens, I, Su Bai, will shoulder it. In the future, we will enjoy glory and riches together. I, Su Bai, will guarantee that all of you will be worry-free. Su Bai patted his chest and sneered coldly. Boom. This time, the crowd cheered in agreement. Looking at the Eight Gods Pavilion, Su Bai smiled gleefully. Write a letter regarding the matter here and send it to the Yao residence. You must pass it to Yao Gongzi. Su Bai beckoned Gao Fei over and whispered into his ears. Yes, Gongzi. Gao Fei knelt on the floor and after hearing Su Bai's words, he immediately turned around and left. Seeing Gao Fei leave, the corners of Su Bai's lips curled up. He heard that Yao Feng was grounded and the entire Yao clan was in seclusion. At this moment, this was the best gift he could give him. He wondered what expression the Wang clan would have if they knew that Wang Chong owed them such a huge sum of money. At this point, Su Bai couldn't help but smile. A good show was about to begin. Boo! In the courtyard, Wang Chong exhaled deeply and slowly retracted his cultivation. A ball of warm energy flowed slowly from his bones. After a few days of cultivation, Wang Chong could feel his strength increasing significantly. His dragon bone art had also improved and his root bone was slowly advancing from Panther Bone Tier 1 to Panther Bone Tier 2. Even though it didn't seem like much of a change to Wang Chong, this meant that he would be able to practice more formidable martial arts. In a few more days, it should be enough. Wang Chong thought. Currently, he was focusing on his martial arts and he wasn't just cultivating at night. He had extended his cultivation time in the day as well. As a result, his cultivation had improved significantly. After finishing his cultivation, Wang Chong bade farewell to his mother and left the house as per usual. However, this time, Wang Chong felt that something was different. Wang Chong is here! Wang Chong is here! Suddenly, a loud shout sounded. Before Wang Chong could react, he saw a figure leaping down from a tree in the distance. Then, a commotion broke out on the seemingly ordinary street. From all directions, carriages appeared out of nowhere and charged in the direction of the Wang residence. Stop him! Don't let him get away! Wang Chong, where do you think you're going? Wang Chong, it's only right for one to repay a debt. Do you think that you can get away with it? A commotion broke out on the street. Initially, Wang Chong looked as though he was facing a formidable foe. However, upon hearing the last sentence, he suddenly burst into laughter. He had already understood what was going on. Gongzi, what's going on? Let's call for reinforcements. Shen Hai and Meng Long immediately appeared by Wang Chong's side. They stared at the raging carriages as though they were facing a formidable foe. There's no need for that. I can handle it myself. Wang Chong waved his hands casually. Voila! While they were speaking, the doors of the carriage opened and a large group of people leaped down from it. They swarmed over from all directions, blocking Wang Chong's path. Wang Gongzi, a month has passed. You can't have forgotten about the debt you owe us, right? In the distance, a cold voice came from a large blue carriage. Su Bai, heh, you bastard, I knew that you were the one behind this. Wang Chong turned around and sneered coldly as he stared at the green carriage. For Su Bai to gather so many people here, It was clear that he was here to cause trouble. Why would Wang Chong need to be polite to him? Wang Gongzi, you can't say such words. How can you say that I'm the one who's causing trouble? Peng. The doors of the green carriage opened and Su Bai, dressed in a green robe embroidered with cloud patterns and a violet gold crown on his head, stepped out of the carriage and landed on the streets. Right? You should know that I'm here to collect my debt. However, I have already recorded this note in the Court of Judicial Review. I wonder if you know about it? Su Bai took out a piece of paper from his green sleeve and held it in his hand with a gleeful smile. Before his voice faded away, the door of the green carriage opened behind him, and two green figures walked out from the left and right sides of the carriage. Bastard! Upon seeing the two of them, Wang Chong's face immediately warped. Wang Chong knew that it was only a matter of time before Su Bai used this note to make a fuss. Wang Chong wasn't afraid of money, but Wang Chong didn't expect that Su Bai would call the officials of the Court of Judicial Review over. These two serious and old-fashioned officials were none other than the temple officials of the Supreme Court. Furthermore, Su Bai had chosen the two most inflexible, strict, and unlikable among the officials of the Court of Judicial Review. These two would only appear when others went back on their word. The moment they appeared, it wouldn't be a good thing. Clearly, Su Bai didn't invite them here to collect his debt. Instead, he wanted to blow the matter up. Seeing the awful expression on Wang Chong's face, Su Bai chuckled gleefully. If Wang Chong thought that the Eight Gods Pavilion would only ask for his debt when it was due, he would be underestimating him. How could the son of the Duke of Su residence be so useless? This time, he had specially invited the two most impartial officials of the Court of Judicial Review over. Right now, he was going to teach Wang Chong a lesson in politics. What was the meaning of means? Wang Gongzi, these notes were written by you, right? Su Gongzi said that you owe them 1,700 gold taels. Is that true? The official on Su Bai's left asked. This was a stern-looking old man. He wasn't tall, and his hair was white. His face was as rigid as a rock, and when he spoke, other than the movement of his wrinkled lips, his entire body didn't move at all. It was as though he was a dried corpse, and just the sight of him was frightening. You should know the laws of the royal court. Even if you are the grandson of Duke Jiao, the same goes for the emperor. The other old man said impassively. He was also as thin as a dried corpse. The moment those words were spoken, countless eyes turned to look at Wang Chong, who was standing at the entrance of the Wang family residence, as though they were waiting for a good show to unfold. Lords, this doesn't seem to be in line with the rules? Wang Chong ignored Su Bai. Instead, he turned to the two officials of the Court of Judicial Review. The Court of Judicial Review will only appear when the other party is unable to fulfill the contract. Since the contract hasn't been fulfilled yet, aren't the two of you a little too early? Chapter 73. Even though it's against the rules, Su Bai's words aren't without reason. 1,700 gold taels isn't a small matter. Given your capabilities, there's a high chance that you won't be able to repay it. As long as the Court of Judicial Review feels that there's a high chance that you're going against the contract, they can interfere. This isn't unprecedented. The lips of the two corpse-like officials of the Court of Judicial Review trembled. However, don't worry. As long as you fulfill the contract with Su Gongzi, the Court of Judicial Review won't be a threat to you. The reason why the Tang dynasty was able to prosper was due to its honesty and trustworthiness. It was precisely because of this that society was able to flourish. It was precisely because of this that the Tang dynasty was able to attract guests from all over the world. Merchants from Karax Spaznu, Abbasid Caliphate, Silla, and Turkic Khaganate came to visit. Due to this, the Court of Judicial Review was extremely strict with those who went against the contract. Even though the two of them were invited by Su Bai, as long as Wang Chong fulfilled the contract, they would leave immediately. Wang Chong, why are you so afraid? Are you intending to go against the contract? The Eight Gods Pavilion is written in black and white. I'm afraid that you won't be able to escape from it, right? Su Bai stepped forward and sneered coldly. Wang Chong thought that he was here to beg for money, but how could that be? Today, he was determined to embarrass the Wang clan. Su Bai, I'll give you another chance. You better think it through. Business is business. Are you sure that you want to help the Yao clan to deal with our Wang clan? Wang Chong said coldly. Wang Chong knew that Su Bai and Yao Feng were close, but it was one thing for them to go up to the stage personally. That was a different matter altogether. Su Bai was clearly intending to blow the matter up. This was no longer the matter of the two of them having a grudge in the Eight Gods Pavilion. Hee hee. Su Bai sneered coldly. He couldn't be bothered to say anything else. With a single glance, the crowd by his side immediately shouted, Wang Chong, return the money! Return the money! Return the money! The voices grew louder and louder. Seeing the situation, Wang Chong sneered coldly. If he really took the money to indulge in debauchery, today's matter would be really difficult. However, Su Bai probably wouldn't have guessed that he had used their money to buy the Hyderabad ores. The current Wang Chong was truly rich and overbearing. 1,700 taels of gold, plus the interest of 1,000 taels of gold, was nothing to him right now. Shanhai, come here. Wang Chong beckoned Shanhai over. There's a box under my bed. Bring that box over here. There were 5,000 taels of gold in the chest. Uncle had specially sent it over after he found out that Wang Chong had given all the money to Wei Hao. If it was packed in a wooden box, no one would know. If Su Bai thought that 2,700 gold taels would be able to stop him, he was truly underestimating him. Yes. Shall I go now? Shin Hai nodded and left. Before he left, he glanced at Su Bai and sneered disdainfully. Even though there was a huge commotion outside, in Shin Hai's eyes, it was just a clown. After spending time with young Master Chong, Shin Hai and Meng Long had learned many of his secrets. On Wang Chong's carriage, he had seen gold taels worth more than 10,000 taels a few times. For Su Bai to cause trouble at the Wang family for a few thousand gold taels was nothing more than a small squabble. Young Master Chong, there's no need to stand on ceremony with these people. Shin Hai said. Wang Chong chuckled and waved his hands. Shen Hai immediately understood and left. What's going on? Who is that? A few breaths after Shen Hai left, a doubtful voice sounded from behind. Before the voice could finish, a beautiful lady dressed in green walked out from the door with a doubtful expression. Behind her was a group of old nannies and maids. Mother! Upon seeing the figure, Wang Chong's face changed. He had tried his best to minimize the impact of this matter, but his mother was still alarmed. Madame Wang was resting in the residence when she heard a huge commotion. Not knowing what was going on, she came out to take a look. Su Gongzi! Upon seeing Su Bai in the crowd, Madame Wang was taken aback. She recognized Su Bai. Back then, she had seen Madame Su bringing Su Bai along in the palace. Why are you here? Madame Wang was astonished. Hee hee, Madame Wang, you came at the right time. Your son owes us 1,700 gold taels. This is written in black and white. We aren't trying to frame you. Su Bai shook the note in his hand and smiled sinisterly. Right, by the way, this is a 2% interest. What? Upon hearing Su Bai's words, Madame Wang's vision darkened. As though she was struck by lightning, her body swayed and she nearly fell to the ground. Madame Wang didn't expect that Wang Chong would owe someone 1,000 gold taels behind her back. Furthermore, it was a 2% interest. To Madame Wang, this was something she didn't even dare to imagine. The Wang family couldn't bear such a huge debt. Upon seeing this sight, Su Bai chuckled gleefully. What he had been anticipating had finally happened. He was certain that the Wang clan didn't know that Wang Chong had borrowed money from the Eight Gods Pavilion. He had gathered so many people, waving flags and shouting battle cries precisely because he wanted to blow this matter up, to let the Wang family, to let everyone know of this matter. The Wang clan was a huge clan and their monthly expenses weren't small at all. Wang Yan's stipend was only sufficient to provide for this large group of guards, nannies, and maids. He wanted to see if he had 100 gold taels left in his savings every month. 1,000 gold taels, including the interest, would be close to 3,000 gold taels. Let's see how the Wang clan is going to repay such a huge sum. This is bad. Seeing his mother looking at him, Wang Chong's heart sank. He had been trying to resolve this matter without alarming his mother, but to think that it would still happen. Chong, is what Su Gongzi said true? Madame Wang clenched her teeth and her face steeled. From the looks of it, Wang Chong didn't just owe Su Bai money. With a single glance, it was hard to tell how many scions of prestigious clans had gathered here and how much money he owed. This was simply audacious. It was just a moment ago that she had a good impression of Wang Chong, but to think that he would revert back to his old ways. Mother, listen to me. This matter isn't as you think it to be. Wang Chong braced himself and said, You just have to tell me whether what Su Gongzi said is true or not. Madame Wang stared at Wang Chong and said sternly, Yes. Wang Chong lowered his head and said, Madame Wang's body trembled in anger. She pointed a finger at Wang Chong, but she couldn't say a single word. Madam, calm down. Madam, calm down. Seeing that Madam was infuriated, the group of nannies and maids hurried forward to support her, massaging her and soothing her chest. Then, they hurriedly persuaded Wang Chong, Young master, you shouldn't speak anymore. Wang Chong also cursed inwardly. He hadn't told his mother about the matter regarding the 8 Gods Pavilion and Hyderabad. The reason was simple. Wang Chong didn't want his mother to worry too much. If he were to know too many things, his mother would surely overthink things. Furthermore, he had already grown up, and there were some matters that he could resolve on his own. At the same time, this would lessen the pressure on his mother. Furthermore, Wang Chong didn't intend to hide the matter regarding the 8 Gods Pavilion and Hyderabad from his mother forever. Just that, it seemed like he had chosen the worst timing to do so. Not too far away, Su Bai sneered coldly. Wasn't this scene exactly what he had hoped for? Wang Chong glared at him before turning around to look at his mother. Even though the matter regarding the 8 Gods Pavilion had been exposed, Wang Chong didn't panic in the slightest. Mother, this matter isn't as you think it to be. Even though 1,700 gold taels isn't a small sum, it isn't a problem at all. I can resolve it. Stop bragging. How are you going to resolve it? The crowd burst into laughter. Their family was considered wealthy, but their monthly allowance was at most a few taels of gold. At most, it was a dozen or 20 taels of gold. Even so, they didn't dare to borrow so much money casually like Wang Chong. The Wang clan didn't do business, so they were even worse off than them. It would be a miracle if Wang Chong could afford it. Wang Chong couldn't be bothered with them at all. 1,700 gold taels wasn't a problem to him at all. Mother, listen to me. I didn't squander this sum of money. I used it to start a business. Wang Chong said, Start a business? What business? Madame Wang finally caught her breath. Upon hearing those words, she immediately asked, Even at this moment, Wang Chong, are you still going to lie to your mother? Su Bai burst into laughter. He had heard Wang Chong's words clearly. What business? In his view, it was complete nonsense. What lie? When has our young master ever lied? Isn't it just 1,000 gold taels? Take it. At this moment, a loud voice sounded from within the gates. Deep disdain could be heard in the voice. Before the figure could be seen, a black shadow flew out. Su Bai dodged to the side, dodging the attack in an instant. Turning his body, he saw the object falling to the ground. Ding ding, it was a pure gold ingot. In an instant, Su Bai's face warped. Shanhai, you came at the right time. Seeing Shanhai walking over, Wang Chong's eyebrows relaxed and he laughed heartily. Facts speak louder than words. This kind of thing could not be explained clearly. Only real money was the most convincing. Young master, to deal with these fellows, you should smash their faces with gold. Why are you wasting your breath on them? You only earn a few taels of gold a month. How can you be compared to our young master? Shanhai looked at the crowd outside disdainfully. Carrying a wooden chest in his hands, the several hundred gene items seemed as light as a feather in his hands. You are just a lackey, stop boasting. How many taels of gold do you want? Take it out. The arrogant scions in the surroundings immediately felt indignant. Su Bai scolded them, but they didn't dare to retaliate. Wang Chong wasn't someone they could afford to offend, but what was a mere lackey to dare to look at them with such disdain? The pampered scions here were the first to lose their temper. Xianxia harumphed in disdain. Then he did a single thing. His hands loosened, and the wooden chest in his hands was smashed to the ground. The wooden frame of the chest was smashed into smithereens, and from the tightly sealed chest, a huge pile of golden objects gushed out. It was all gold. Shua. In an instant, everyone's breathing stopped. Even Madame Wang, Zhao Shuhua, was stunned. Standing up from the maid's embrace, she stared at the pile of gold on the ground, speechless. In front of the Wang family residence, time seemed to have stopped. Impossible. Chapter 74. The Wang clan was extremely strict, and Wang Chong's monthly allowance was only a few silver taels. Based on Su Bai's calculations, it was impossible for Wang Chong to take out so much gold. But now, there was more than 1,000 gold taels here. Su Bai was dumbfounded. Wang Chong, Xianxia, and Meng Long could clearly sense the change in the atmosphere, and the trio chuckled. Gongzi, there's no need to stand on ceremony with these people. Just do what you should do. Xianxia said. That's right, this is how you should deal with such despicable people. Meng Long chimed in by the side. When it came to Wang Chong, the two of them had undergone a massive change. When Wang Chong, Ma Zhou, and the others messed around outside, causing trouble for the clan, the two of them had always disliked it. Most of the time, the two of them would criticize Wang Chong in their hearts. But after following Wang Chong for a period of time, their view of Wang Chong had undergone an earth-shattering change. The two of them had personally witnessed Wang Chong doing many inconceivable things. In their eyes, Wang Chong was the most outstanding and promising young master of the Wang clan. They couldn't wait to protect him. If anyone were to speak ill of Wang Chong now, that person would be their enemy. The two of them would be the first to get angry with him. How could Xianxia tolerate Su by slandering his Gongzi? Well done. Inwardly, Wang Chong gave a thumbs up in praise. Facts speak louder than words. No matter how much Wang Chong said, it wasn't as effective as Xianxia smashing a chest of gold on the ground. Xianxia's smash was truly ingenious. It was even more effective than if Wang Chong had done it himself. The entrance of the Wang family residence was silent. Everyone was stunned by the 5,000 gold taels that Wang Chong smashed on the ground. Even Wang Chong's mother, Zhao Shuhua, was stunned speechless. Wang Chong had taken 2 gold taels worth several tens of thousands of gold taels in total, but the first time, the gold didn't enter his house. Instead, it took a detour around the capital and ended up in the bags of Eblonidon and Arloja. The second time, she gave half to Wei Hao and the other half to Uncle. This was the first time Wang Chong had brought gold home, and it was sealed in a box. Therefore, even Madame Wang did not know about it. So much gold, even to the Wang family, was an unimaginably large sum of money. Mrs. Wang wanted to ask Wang Chong where he got so much money, but she held it back. It wasn't the right time to ask about this. Where did you get so much money? A foppish young master muttered to himself as he stared at the gold that had leaked out of the chest on the ground. He was deeply shocked. In the 8 Gods Pavilion, they could be considered as wealthy individuals. Otherwise, they wouldn't have the money to lend to Wang Chong. But compared to Wang Chong, he was still far behind. There was at least 4,000 to 5,000 gold taels in the chest. To them, it was an unimaginable amount. In an instant, the crowd suddenly felt the huge gap between them and Wang Chong. For some reason, a huge ravine had appeared between them and Wang Chong. They were on this side of the ravine, but on the other side, Wang Chong had already surpassed their level. He had become an existence that they couldn't even look up to. Wang Chong was still the same Wang Chong, but in the eyes of the crowd, there was something intimidating about him. There's no need for you to bother about that. Wang Chong swept his gaze across the crowd and sneered coldly, isn't it just 1,700 gold taels? You can claim it with the note. Let me tell you something, I was intending to give each of you an extra 100 gold taels, but since you helped Su Bai to deal with me, there's no need for that anymore. This reward can only be left for those who didn't come today. 100 gold taels. I already said that I shouldn't have come. Young Master Chong, this has nothing to do with me. I didn't even shout a single word. I didn't either. Young Master Chong, I'm just passing by. Upon hearing that 100 gold taels were gone just like that, the crowd immediately wailed in agony. Those of lower standing and birth couldn't afford to offend Su Bai, and they couldn't afford to offend the Duke of Su who stood behind him. Even so, Duke of Su hadn't reached the level where he wielded absolute power in the Tang dynasty. Naturally, there were those who didn't give in to Su Bai. They had intended to do him a favor, but how could they accept losing 100 gold taels? That was equivalent to more than a year's worth of their monthly allowance. This wasn't a small sum. Even if they took the life of debauchery and Hushua Hai, they would be able to last for a long time. Due to Su Bai's failure, they had lost so much gold taels. Their intestines were green with regret. Hee, young master is wise. Shen Hai and Meng Long didn't say anything, but they were grinning from ear to ear. This is what you call formidable. Without even having to fork out a single cent, he managed to tear Su Bai apart with just a few words. Some of the anxious ones had already started cursing at Su Bai. I didn't realize that young master is actually so formidable. The two of them couldn't help but click their tongues. If Wang Chong were to give them the gold taels just like that, these fellows wouldn't be grateful. But to suddenly tell them that he was prepared to give them as much as he wanted, but because they rebelled with Su Bai, everything was cancelled. It wasn't hard to imagine the pain they were feeling right now. Standing beside Wang Chong, Shen Hai and Meng Long could see the pain written on the faces of those profligate scions, and the dissatisfaction they had towards Su Bai was even greater. They didn't dare to get angry when they were alone, but it was a different story when there was a group of them. Bastard! Don't listen to his nonsense. Su Bai didn't expect Wang Chong to have such a move up his sleeves. In an instant he felt both anxious and furious. It wasn't easy for him to gather so many scions and nobles together, and yet, it was about to be resolved by Wang Chong. How could Su Bai be willing to accept this? Wait a moment. Glancing at the wooden chest that Wang Chong had smashed on the ground, a thought flashed through Su Bai's mind. He stepped forward, pointed at the gold taels and bellowed, "Wang Chong, your Wang clan has never been involved in business. With just you, Wang Chong, how can you possibly get so much gold? I'm suspecting that your Wang clan has accepted bribes from others." Su Bai stared at Wang Chong with a menacing gaze, as though he was trying to peer into the depths of the latter's heart. He had almost been thrown into disarray by Wang Chong's counterattack. However, Su Bai finally understood the situation. The Wang clan had always been struggling to make ends meet, so how could they possibly have so much gold? Su Bai didn't believe that the Wang clan would be able to save so much money. There must be a problem here. Censor Fu. It is your duty to supervise the officials and enforce discipline. To think that the Wang clan has always been upright, yet they have secretly embezzled so much gold. Can you just ignore this matter? Su Bai abruptly turned around to look at the other carriage behind him. Jia, the carriage door opened, and a purple-robed white-haired elder walked out with a dark expression. This elder had been eavesdropping in the carriage for a long time, and upon hearing Su Bai's call, he walked out. Wang Chong didn't recognize this elder, but upon seeing the fish talisman on the other party's waist, his face immediately warped in shock. This was an imperial censor of the Tang dynasty, and a vice minister of the imperial censor at that. In order to deal with him, Su Bai not only summoned the vice minister of the Court of Judicial Review, he even summoned an imperial censor of the Tang dynasty. Su Bai. Wang Chong glared at Su Bai with an incomparably dark expression. If he summoned the vice minister of the Court of Judicial Review, it was likely that he, Wang Chong, would be the only one locked up in the prison of the Court of Judicial Review. However, Su Bai's target wasn't just him, but the imperial censors of the royal court. Instead, it was the entire Wang clan. This was a grave offense against the Wang clan, leaving no room for Wang Chong to salvage the situation. Furthermore, for an imperial censor of the royal court to be hiding in a carriage instead of discussing the affairs of the country in the royal court, listening to the arguments of his children, it was impossible for Wang Chong to believe that Su Bai hadn't been plotting this for a long time. Su Bai, you asked for it? A vicious glint flashed across Wang Chong's eyes. Madam Wang, Wang Gongzi, I saw everything in the carriage. I believe you have heard Su Gongzi's words as well. The Wang clan isn't a wealthy clan, and Duke Jiao's incorruptibility has always been respected by the entire royal court. I don't want to doubt the Wang clan, but this chest of gold isn't something that the Wang clan can accumulate through their salary. As an imperial censor, I am responsible for supervising the officials and upholding discipline. I will have to report this matter to the nobles of the royal court and His Majesty. Censor Fu spoke very slowly, almost spitting out each word one at a time. But every single word he spat out seemed to carry the weight of 1,000 caddies. Around the Wang clan gate, the anger of the crowd was originally focused on Su Bai. But after this Censor Fu appeared, all of them fell silent, not daring to utter a single word. Their eyes were filled with fear. In the Tang dynasty, there was no one more fearsome than the imperial censors. If a single wrong word were to fall into the ears of the imperial censors, they could be impeached. In the Tang dynasty, even the most mischievous scion knew that in the Tang dynasty, one could offend anyone but the imperial censors. The area within 10 kilometers of any imperial censor was a forbidden zone, and no scion would dare to mess around them lest they brought trouble to their family. No one could have imagined that Su Bai would hide a censor in the carriage and accompany them to the Wang family residence. Su Bai, that bastard, is he mad? To bring the imperial censor here, doesn't he know that this is a huge taboo? Everyone was filled with fear and hatred. It was fine for Su Bai to deal with Wang Chong, but for him to bring the imperial censor here, he was throwing everyone into the fire. In order to deal with the Wang clan and side with the Yao clan and King Qi, he was willing to go to any lengths. Everyone wanted nothing more than to distance themselves from Su Bai and that Censor Fu, but no one dared to make a move at this moment. If they were to be targeted by the imperial censor, they would be in deep trouble. Su Bai could clearly sense the change in the atmosphere, but he paid it no heed. Instead, he was gleeful, and his eyes were fixed on Wang Chong alone. Wang Chong, do you think that this is all I'm capable of? Since I'm going to use your head to offer to the Yao clan, do you think that I would come without any preparations? Su Bai sneered coldly. Before coming, he had already made ample preparations. If Wang Chong was unable to repay the 1,700 gold taels, the 2 officials of the Court of Judicial Review would be his gift to the Wang clan. With them, he would be able to blow the matter up. And if something were to happen, Wang Chong would be able to repay the debt. Even though he didn't believe that such a thing would happen, the imperial censor in the other carriage would be of use as well. No matter what, the Wang clan would be doomed. Chong, Madame Wang grabbed Wang Chong's hand tightly, and her face was ghastly pale. It wasn't a small matter for a censor to appear at the entrance of the Wang clan. The Wang clan would probably be criticized in the royal court tomorrow. Madame Wang was an opinionated person, but those were just family matters. Chapter 75. Mother, don't worry. I'll deal with this matter. Wang Chong grasped his mother's hands tightly. What Censor Fu? Others might be afraid of him, but he was fearful. After experiencing so many storms, how could he be afraid of a censor's impeachment? Wang Chong knew a little about this Fu He. He didn't get along with big uncle Wang Zhenjing, and his grandfather, Duke Jiao, was highly respected in the Tang dynasty. However, Fu He seemed to dislike it and often tried to find fault with him. On top of that, of all the censors, he was the closest to Duke of Su. Otherwise, Su Bai wouldn't have been so bold as to invite him over. Censor Fu, you sure have nothing better to do. Censors supervise the officials and maintain order. When did it become a business to supervise ordinary people? Our Wang clan's salary isn't enough to accumulate a few thousand gold taels, but even if the Wang clan can't I? Wang Chong knew of his background, so he didn't bother to be polite with him. Hearing Wang Chong's words, everyone was shocked. Before the censor, everyone had to tread carefully. If they could avoid speaking, they would do so. The more they spoke, the more mistakes they would make, and the less they spoke, the less mistakes they would make. Yet Wang Chong actually dared to talk back to the censor. Gongzi, don't speak too much. Censors aren't joking. Shen Hai and Meng Long lowered their heads and tugged on Wang Chong's sleeves. The two of them were uncouth men in the military, But after living in the capital for a few years, they understood that there were some people they couldn't afford to offend. Wang Gongzi, you're saying that you earned all this money? Censor Fu's eyes narrowed, and for the first time, he assessed Wang Chong seriously. That's right. Wang Chong replied without any hesitation. It seemed like Su Bai was really looking at the wrong place to try and grasp his confidence through Censor Fu. Through the Hyderabad ore, Wang Chong slowly forged swords and sabers to earn money. These were all well documented, and even if the censor were to investigate him, he wouldn't be able to do anything. Ha, what a joke. Wang Chong, you think you can do that? Before Censor Fu could speak, Su Bai burst into laughter. He did not believe that Wang Chong had such an ability. Such a ridiculous excuse was simply treating others as fools. If he, Wang Chong, was so capable, the Wang clan would have been rich and powerful long ago. How could they still talk about being honest? What was incorruptible? Only those who have no money are incorruptible. In front of the censor, Wang Chong dared to spout nonsense. Wang Gongzi, it's best if you speak the truth. This is no small matter. Censor Fu also spoke slowly, his voice revealing a stern tone. Wang Chong actually dared to spout nonsense in front of him, which made him very uncomfortable. This was a challenge to the authority of the imperial censors. Humph, believe it or not, it's up to you. I said I earned it, so I earned it. Do I still need to lie? Although the power of the imperial censor was great, it did not seem to be to this extent. Do I report to you how I earn money? Wang Chong said coldly. Impudent. Hearing Wang Chong's words, he flew into a rage. Madam Wang, how did you bring up your child? The censor represents the emperor. There is a problem with the Wang clan, and the source of their wealth is unknown. Are you saying that we can't even investigate it? Is the Wang clan so prestigious that they dare to look down on the emperor? He glared at Madam Wang, Zhao Shuhua, with an incomparably cold gaze. Hearing Censor Fu's words, Madam Wang's face paled. Looking down on the emperor wasn't a small crime. Chong, don't speak anymore. Madam Wang hurriedly pulled Wang Chong's hands. Censor Fu. Wang Chong flew into a rage. Just as he was about to reveal the matter of the Blue Bottle Pavilion, a loud voice suddenly sounded. Didn't Wang Gongzi say it already? I will be the first to object to anyone who dares to say that Wang Gongzi is lying. Hong long long, the earth trembled. Before anyone could react to what was going on. At the end of the long street in the distance, smoke and dust billowed. Carriage after carriage rushed in the direction of the Wang family residence. Imperial Army. Seeing the insignia on the carriages, the faces of the scions present paled. The insignia on the luxurious carriages clearly indicated that they belonged to the Imperial Army. More importantly, why would the Imperial Army be here? What were they doing here? Move aside, move aside, move aside. Little brats, scram to the side. Move aside, move aside, move aside. To dare to block the carriage of the Imperial Army? Are your eyes growing on the top of your head? The Imperial Army is here to deal with matters of the Imperial Army. Those insignificant people in front, move aside. A series of domineering and barbaric shouts came from the carriage. All of the scions present came from extraordinary backgrounds and they were either wealthy or respectable. However, this identity was completely useless in front of the Imperial Army. Move aside, move aside, move aside. Hurry up and drive the carriage away. These bastards are completely unreasonable. Seeing the group of Imperial Army rushing forward aggressively without any signs of stopping, the faces of the scions changed. They hurriedly urged their coachman to drive the carriage away. Even Censor Fu, his face changed upon seeing the Imperial Army, and he hurriedly stood to the side. Civil officials and military officials were two different systems. While it wasn't to say that there was no communication between them, the effectiveness of the two systems was greatly reduced. He could argue for what was right, impeach a prime minister in the royal court, and even reprimand the emperor, but he was helpless against the Imperial Army, who represented the emperor's guards. Hong long long, the carriages of the Imperial Army charged into the encirclement formed by the scions as though there was no one around. The scions hurriedly dodged as though they were avoiding the plague. Look! Suddenly, someone noticed something. The others also noticed it. Imperial Army. These people are actually the leaders of the Imperial Army. Seeing the leopard, dragon, tiger, and qilin carvings on the carriages, the scions were shocked. Those who had already retreated 3 to 4 zhang back retreated even further. They had some understanding of the Imperial Army. The bronze carvings on the carriage were in the shape of a leopard, a tiger, a dragon, and a qilin. Not everyone could use them. Those carvings represented the leaders of the Imperial Army, and those of high standing at that. Why are these fellows here? Those who knew the background of the Imperial Army were shocked. These Imperial Army leaders were like scorpions and tigers. Just the few of them were like little chicks in their hands. They weren't even enough to play with. It's you. Censor Fu. He had retreated to the side, but when he saw the leaders of the Imperial Army, he stopped. Not only did he not retreat, he even walked forward. What are you Imperial Army members doing here instead of guarding the Emperor in the royal palace? Be careful, I might report you for negligence. Lord Censor, the Imperial Army is responsible for guarding the Emperor, but there's no rule that says that we can't leave the royal palace, right? Besides, do we have to report to you every time we buy a few swords? These Imperial Army leaders all had thick beards, thick brows, and thick lips. With a single look, it was clear that they were arrogant, domineering, and unreasonable people. Buy swords? Getting Su Bai's heart skipped a beat. What do you mean? What swords? Censor Fu asked with a dark expression. I can't be bothered to explain it to you. Others might fear censors, but not the Imperial Army. The Imperial Army was the Emperor's guard, and they represented the Emperor. The only ones who could punish them were their superiors and the Emperor. However, censors weren't in this category. Gongzi, there's no need to lower yourself to their level. I am the general of the Soaring Serpent Army, Zhang Song, pays respect to Gongzi. Isn't it just a few thousand gold taels? How dare they accuse Gongzi for such a small sum of money? I have 50,000 gold taels in my carriage. Gongzi, feel free to take it. They must be blind to not recognize the number 1 swordsmith in the world. Gongzi, your swords are truly beautiful. I beseech Gongzi to forge one for me as well. I'll pay any price. Bastard! I haven't even said anything yet. Gongzi, please forge one for me as well. Gongzi, I trust in your abilities. I'm confident in your swords. Just that, the gems on the swords aren't all that beautiful. No, I brought it myself. Gongzi, take a look and use these gems. The rest are all yours. I only have one request, and that is for you to forge a more beautiful sword for me. So many requests. Gongzi, I'm different from them. Whatever you forge, I want it. Help me forge a sword as well. Under the dumbfounded gazes of the crowd, those arrogant and domineering Imperial Army officers turned around and bowed to Wang Chong, making it so that no one dared to look them in the eye. Their fawning manner left one unable to believe that they were the arrogant leaders of the Imperial Army who barged into the hall earlier on. What is going on? The crowd was dumbfounded, unable to react to the situation. When did Wang Chong possess such magical powers to make these Imperial Army soldiers so humble? Madame Wang was also dumbfounded. The old nannies, maids, and servants stared at one another before turning their gazes to Wang Chong. The sight before them was simply too inconceivable. Only Wang Chong could explain it. Wang Chong didn't know whether he should laugh or cry. He couldn't understand what was going on either. This group of Imperial Army soldiers came too suddenly, leaving him completely clueless. He could only vaguely guess that it had something to do with the Wuxia steel sword that he had forged. However, he couldn't understand why they would suddenly appear at this moment. Wait a moment. Are you sure you aren't mistaken? Is the person you're looking for really Wang Chong? A voice suddenly sounded by the side. Su Bai walked out from the crowd. His expression was terrifyingly calm. He didn't believe that Wang Chong was the number 1 swordsmith. Upon seeing these people, his first thought was that they had come to the wrong place or the wrong person. Why are you making a ruckus here? Are you blind? You don't even recognize the #1 swordsmith in the world. Hee, even we don't dare to call Gongzi by his name, but this lad dares to do so. Get out of here and stand over there. Master, don't be angry. This lad isn't worthy of your anger. Why don't you teach him a lesson for you? Welcome to Legends of Cultivation audiobooks, where we bring ancient fantasy to life through storytelling. Follow the rise of heroes who defy fate, unlock mystical powers, and battle across celestial realms. Our audiobooks are crafted for fans of Chinese cultivation novels, filled with battles, breakthroughs, and legendary artifacts. Subscribe and be part of an unforgettable journey into the realm of immortality.